A woman approached me outside the coffee shop and said she was glad I'd finally agreed to meet in person. I told her she had the wrong person. She looked confused and showed me her phone. It displayed a conversation on a dating app with someone using my photos. The messages went back 6 weeks. She'd been talking to this profile every day. They'd made plans to meet at this exact location at this exact time. She showed me the profile. It was my face, my first name, my age. I'd never seen this app before in my life. I told her again that it wasn't me. She stared at me for a long moment, then walked away without saying anything else. I went home and tried to forget about it. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe the photos just looked similar. But 3 days later, a different woman stopped me at the grocery store. She called me by a nickname no one used anymore except my college roommate. She said we'd been messaging for 2 months and she'd really enjoyed our conversations. She seemed hurt that I was pretending not to know her. I asked her to show me the profile. Same photos of me, different app this time. The bio mentioned details only someone close to me would know. My childhood dog's name, the city where I grew up, the nickname she'd just used. I showed her my driver's license and explained I wasn't who she thought I was. She left her cart in the middle of the aisle and walked out of the store. Over the next month, it happened 4 more times. Different women, different locations. A bar near my apartment, the gym, a bookstore downtown, outside my office building. Each one thought they'd been talking to me for weeks or months. Each one had made plans to meet that I knew nothing about. They all showed me their phones, different apps, different usernames. Always my photos, always accurate information about my life. The conversations they'd had with these profiles were intimate. Long discussions about childhood memories, career frustrations, relationship fears. Things I'd barely told my closest friends. The profiles knew everything about me and were using that information to connect with strangers in my name. I started documenting every encounter. I took screenshots of the profiles when women showed them to me. I wrote down dates and locations. 7 encounters total. I reported each profile to the respective apps, but the process was slow and required the women to file the reports since I couldn't access the profiles myself. Some of them did. Some refused to believe I wasn't involved in some elaborate excuse to avoid them. One woman accused me of catfishing her and threatened to expose me online. I gave her my real social media accounts to prove the profiles weren't mine. She blocked me on everything anyway. Another woman just cried and said she'd really thought I was different, that our conversations had meant something to her. The encounters stopped happening in public. Instead, they moved closer to my private life. I came home from work and found a note slipped under my apartment door. It was from someone who said we'd planned to meet for dinner, but I'd never showed up. She'd waited for 40 minutes at a restaurant 2 blocks away. The note included her phone number and asked me to please explain what happened. I hadn't been to that restaurant in months. I called the number. She answered and seemed surprised to hear from me. She said the profile had suggested that specific restaurant because it was supposed to be my favorite. It was my favorite. I'd mentioned it to exactly 3 people in the past year. She read me some of the messages they'd exchanged. The profile had described the interior of my apartment, the view from my window, the arrangement of furniture, details you couldn't see from outside. I filed a police report. The officer took my statement and the documentation I'd gathered. He said it sounded like harassment, but without knowing who was behind the profiles, there wasn't much they could do. He suggested I increase my security, change my routines, be aware of my surroundings. I installed a deadbolt and a chain lock. I closed my curtains at night. I stopped going to my usual places at my usual times. I varied my route to work. But the profiles kept finding new people to connect with. I knew because some of them would find my actual social media accounts and message me asking why I was avoiding them. They'd send screenshots of conversations I'd never had, plans I'd never made, promises I'd never given. One message was different from the others. A woman sent me a long paragraph explaining that she understood now that someone was impersonating me. She said she was sorry for believing the profile and wanted to help if she could. She'd saved all of their conversations before the profile unmatched her. She sent me the file. I spent hours reading through it. The profile had told her things about my childhood that I'd never told anyone, specific memories, a teacher's name from 4th grade, the color of my first bicycle, the street where my grandmother lived. I called my mother and asked if she'd been talking to anyone about me. She hadn't. I asked if any old photos of me were posted anywhere online. She said she'd made her Facebook private years ago and barely used it. I searched my own name with every detail I could think of. Nothing came up that included this level of information. The woman who sent me the conversation said something in her message that I kept thinking about. She said the profile had told her we couldn't meet yet because they needed to make sure she was really ready, that they'd had bad experiences before with people who seemed interested but then disappeared. The profile had said it was testing her patience and commitment. She'd thought it was romantic. She'd waited 3 months messaging every day, proving herself. She said other women had probably done the same thing. that the profile had probably been doing this for much longer than any of us realized. I looked at the dates of my encounters. They were spread out, one every week or two, like scheduled appointments. Like someone was sending women to find me at specific intervals to see what would happen, to watch my reaction, to see if I'd figure it out. I changed my number and deleted my social media accounts. I told my landlord I was moving and broke my lease early. Last week in that apartment, I barely slept. I kept thinking about all those conversations that had happened in my name, all those women who thought they knew me, who'd trusted something that wore my face and used my history and spoke in a voice that sounded right enough to believe. I thought about the person behind it all, whoever they were, collecting information about my life piece by piece and using it to build something that was me but wasn't me. Something better at connecting with people than I'd ever been. I packed everything I owned into my car and drove to a different part of the city. I didn't leave a forwarding address. 3 months later, a friend told me she'd seen someone who looked exactly like me on a dating app. She'd almost swiped right before she remembered I wasn't dating anyone. She showed me the profile. New photos, same face, different name this time. The bio said they'd just moved to the area and were looking to meet new people. I told her the profile wasn't me. She said she knew. The location was listed as my old neighborhood, 4 blocks from where I used to live. Whoever it was hadn't found me yet. I was cleaning out my email inbox when I saw a password reset notification from Facebook. It was dated 3 days ago. I hadn't used Facebook in probably 8 years, not since college. I'd forgotten the login entirely. The email said someone had requested to change the password on my old account. I clicked through to the profile using the recovery link, mostly just curious about what embarrassing photos were still up there from 2016. When the page loaded, I saw my face, my name, but the profile picture was from last month. I recognized the background. It was taken in my current apartment. I scrolled down and saw posts from the past 6 months, status updates about my job, photos of my dog, check-ins at the coffee shop I go to every morning. Every single post was something from my actual life, but I hadn't written any of it. The captions were in my style, the kinds of things I would say, but I had never logged into this account. I never even remembered it existed until that email. I checked the friends list and saw people I'd added in college, plus about 30 new friends. I didn't recognize most of the new names. Some had no profile pictures. A few had pictures, but the accounts looked empty when I clicked through. The most recent post was from yesterday morning. It said I was heading to work early to finish a project. That was true. I had gone in at 7 instead of 9. The post was made at 6:53 a.m., 7 minutes before I left my apartment. I checked the activity log and saw the post was made from a mobile device. I only have one phone, and it was with me that entire morning. I went through my phone's Facebook app and confirmed I wasn't logged in. I never had been. I checked my laptop, my old tablet I barely use. Nothing. No active sessions except the one I was currently using to look at all of this. I changed the password immediately and enabled every security setting I could find. 2-factor authentication, login alerts. I went through and deleted all the recent posts, which took almost an hour. Then I scrolled back further and found the gap. My actual last post was from March 2017. After that, nothing until October of last year. That's when it started again. Just small things at first. A shared article about something related to my field, a comment on someone's post. Then in December, the status updates began. Short ones about the weather or what I was doing that weekend, all accurate, all things I had actually done. I called Facebook's support line and spent 2 hours being transferred between departments. They confirmed there were login sessions for my area, but couldn't tell me what device or IP address without a subpoena. They suggested my account had been compromised and that changing the password should solve it. But that didn't explain how someone knew these specific details about my daily life, my apartment building, my dog's name, my work project. These weren't things you could guess or find through public records. The coffee shop check-ins were always at the exact times I was actually there. I checked the timestamps against my credit card statements. I went back through the friend requests that had been accepted over the past months. Most of the profiles were sparse. A few photos, minimal information. I sent messages to 5 of them asking how we knew each other. 3 never responded. 1 account was deleted within an hour of my message. The 5th person replied 2 days later saying they thought we'd met at a conference, but I hadn't been to any conferences. When I pushed for details, they stopped responding. I looked up their name and found a real person with that name in a nearby city, but when I called the number listed, they'd never heard of Facebook and didn't know what I was talking about. The activity log showed something else I'd missed initially. About once a week, someone downloaded my data. All of it, photos, messages, everything Facebook had stored about me from years ago. The downloads happened at random times. Tuesday at 3 a.m., Saturday at noon, Thursday evening. I tried to find a pattern but couldn't. I reported it to the police, but they said unless there was a direct threat or financial loss, there wasn't much they could do. They took a report number and suggested I delete the account entirely. I didn't. I changed the password again, added more security, and started checking it every day. 3 weeks later, I got another email. Someone had logged in successfully from a new device. I immediately went to the account and checked the activity. Nothing had been posted. But in the messages, there was a conversation I didn't remember. It was with one of those sparse profile accounts from the friend list. The messages went back 2 months. They were casual, friendly, making plans to meet up, talking about work stress, complaining about the weather. Every message from my side sounded exactly like me. I have a specific way of typing, certain phrases I use. These messages had all of it. The conversation ended with me agreeing to meet this person for coffee at a specific date and time. That date was tomorrow. I didn't sleep. I sat with my laptop open, refreshing the login history every few minutes. Nothing changed. In the morning, I went to the coffee shop at the time mentioned in the messages. I sat in the back corner where I could see the door. I waited for an hour. No one approached me. No one seemed to be looking for anyone. I felt ridiculous. I left and went home. When I checked the account that evening, there was a new post. It said I'd had a great time catching up with an old friend and included a photo. The photo showed the coffee shop from the outside, taken from across the street. In the window, you could just barely make out someone sitting in the back corner. The timestamp said it was posted at exactly the time I'd been sitting there, alone. I was searching for my name to see what came up for a job application background check. The first page was normal, my LinkedIn, an old news article about a charity event I'd volunteered at, a public record from when I bought my car. The second page had a link to a website I didn't recognize. The preview text showed my full name and the city where I lived. I clicked it, expecting some data aggregator site or public records database. Instead, it loaded a profile page with my photo at the top. Below it was a detailed timeline of my life organized by year. The website had no branding, no company name, no about section, just profiles. I could see a search bar and a navigation menu, but everything required login credentials I didn't have. The information visible without logging in was extensive. My birthday, my schools, my employment history with specific dates. Previous addresses going back to college. The timeline included events I'd never posted about anywhere. A minor car accident from 3 years ago, a hospital visit for a broken wrist in 2019, a small claims court case I'd filed against the landlord in 2021. All of it was accurate. All of it was detailed. Each entry had a small icon next to it, a camera symbol, a document symbol, a location pin. The icons were clickable but required login access to view what they linked to. I tried to create an account. The registration page said the site was invitation only and provided no other information. I ran a reverse image search on the photo they'd used. It led me to a cached version of an old blog I'd deleted 4 years ago. The blog had been personal. I'd written about daily life and posted photos occasionally. I'd removed it when I started job hunting because it seemed unprofessional. The cached pages were still accessible through search engines apparently, but that didn't explain the rest of the information. The accident wasn't something I'd blogged about. The hospital visit happened after I'd already deleted the blog. I searched for the website's name and found nothing. No mentions, no reviews, no references to what it was or who ran it. The domain registration was private. I tried adding admin and about and other common directory paths to the URL. Nothing worked. The site seemed to only have profile pages and the locked login portal. I searched my name on the site's search function visible on the homepage. It returned my profile and 6 other results. All were people with similar names in different cities. I clicked on one at random. Their profile was just as detailed as mine. Education, work, addresses, a timeline going back years. I recognized the format from data broker websites, but those usually had opt-out options and clear business models. This had neither. I searched for people I knew, my brother, my old roommate, a coworker. All of them had profiles. All of them had detailed timelines. None of them knew the site existed when I asked them. I contacted the hosting company listed in the site's technical information. They said they couldn't provide details about their clients without a subpoena. I filed a complaint with the FTC about unauthorized use of personal information. I got an automated response saying they'd review it. I posted about the website on a privacy forum asking if anyone else had found profiles of themselves. 3 people replied saying they'd discovered the same site months ago and hadn't been able to get their information removed. One person said they'd noticed their profile being updated in real time. They'd moved to a new apartment and within 2 weeks their new address was listed. They had no idea how the site was getting current information. I started checking my profile daily. It didn't change for 3 weeks. Then one morning I logged on and saw a new entry in my timeline. It was dated from the previous Friday. It said I'd attended a medical appointment. The entry was correct. I'd gone to a dermatologist for a routine checkup. The appointment had been scheduled under my insurance. That information would be in a database somewhere, but it shouldn't be publicly accessible. I checked again 3 days later. Another new entry. This one said I'd made a purchase at a specific electronics store. I had. I bought a phone charger 2 days ago. I paid with a credit card. I looked at the small icons next to each entry. The camera icon next to the medical appointment, the document icon next to the purchase. Whatever was behind those icons, someone had it. Someone was collecting it. Someone was organizing my entire life into a database, and I couldn't see why or who or what they were doing with it. I hired a lawyer who specialized in privacy law. She sent a formal request to have my information removed from the site. The request went unanswered. She sent a cease and desist. No response. She tried to file suit but couldn't identify a defendant. The domain privacy protection couldn't be pierced without evidence of criminal activity, and having a profile on a website wasn't technically illegal even if I hadn't consented to it. Most of the information was already publicly available through other means. The site was just aggregating it. The lawyer said, unless I could prove actual harm or damages, there wasn't much legal recourse. She suggested I focus on securing my personal information going forward and monitoring for identity theft. I paid her bill and closed the case. I set up alerts for my name and monitored my credit reports. I started paying for things in cash when possible. I changed my phone number and made it unlisted. I restricted all my social media to private. I checked the profile every few days. It kept updating. Small things, a change in my car registration, a new professional license renewal, a speeding ticket I got on the highway. The ticket had happened 4 hours before it appeared on the profile. I hadn't even paid for it yet. Somewhere in a police database, that ticket existed, and somehow this website had access to it almost immediately. I thought about all the other people with profiles, thousands probably, maybe more. All of us documented, all of our information flowing into the system from sources we couldn't identify, all of it organized and stored and accessible to anyone with login credentials we'd never be granted. The last time I checked the profile was 6 months ago. It's still there, still updating. The most recent entry is from last week. It says I renewed my lease. I did. I signed the paperwork on Tuesday. By Thursday, it was on the website. I don't check anymore. There's no point. The information is out there. It's being collected whether I look at it or not. Sometimes I think about who has access to those icons I can't click, who's looking at whatever is behind the camera symbol and the document symbol and the location pins, what they're doing with it. Why are they keeping track? I think about applying for jobs and wondering if hiring managers have login credentials I don't. I think about dating and wondering if the person across from me has already read my timeline. I think about the lawyer's words, no actual harm, no damages. Just my entire life on display for people I'll never see. Just the feeling of being watched by a system I can't escape or understand. Just knowing that somewhere, someone is adding to my profile right now, recording this moment, filing it away with everything else they know. Everything I can't delete or control or even see. Just the profile, always there, always growing, always one step ahead of wherever I think my privacy ends. I got an email from LinkedIn thanking me for being a premium member for 3 years. I'd never paid for LinkedIn Premium. I'd barely remembered having a LinkedIn at all. I'd made it during my senior year of college in 2018 when everyone said you needed one for job applications. After I got hired at the accounting firm, I never looked at it again. The email had a summary of my profile activity. It said I'd made over 200 connections this year and posted 47 times. I clicked the link expecting to see an error message or someone else's account, but it loaded my profile with my photo and my name. The profile picture was current. It showed me wearing the glasses I'd bought 4 months ago. My old profile picture was from graduation. This one looked like it had been taken in my office. The background showed the window and the specific angle of light that comes in around midday. My title was listed as Senior Financial Analyst, which was correct. My previous title from 3 years ago was Junior Analyst. Someone had updated everything. The summary section described my work in detail, mentioned specific clients I'd worked with, and listed skills I'd actually developed. It was accurate. Too accurate. These weren't things you could pull from public information. I scrolled through the activity feed and saw posts going back 18 months. They were professional, market analysis, industry news commentary, congratulations to connections on new jobs. The writing style matched how I write work emails, formal but not stiff. The posts had likes and comments from people I didn't know. I clicked on a few profiles. They all seemed legitimate, real companies, real job histories. Some had mutual connections with people I actually knew from work. One person who'd commented on 3 of my posts worked 2 floors down from me in the same building. I'd seen her in the elevator. I checked the connections list. It had grown from the 40-something people I'd added in college to over 300. Most were in finance or accounting. Some worked at competitor firms. Others were at companies I'd never heard of. About 60 of them worked at my current company. I recognized maybe 10 names. The rest were from departments I never interacted with or from regional offices. Several people were listed as executives or department heads. I tried to remember if I'd ever met any of them. I hadn't. But according to the profile, I'd been connected to some of them for over a year. The messages section showed conversations I had no memory of. Someone had been responding to connection requests and thank you notes, short, polite replies. A few longer exchanges about industry trends or job opportunities. One conversation from 6 months ago was with a recruiter from a firm in Chicago. They'd reached out about a position. The messages from my account expressed interest and included my phone number and personal email, my actual phone number and actual email. I checked my phone logs and found a call from a Chicago area code on the same day as the final message. It lasted 4 minutes. I'd answered it. I had no memory of the conversation. I called the recruiter's number from the message history. A woman answered and recognized my name immediately. She said we'd had a great conversation about the position, that I'd seemed very interested, and she was disappointed when I stopped responding to her follow-up emails. She said she'd sent 3 emails to my personal address over the following 2 weeks. I checked my personal email and found them in my inbox. All 3 marked as read. I had never seen them before that moment. She asked if I was still interested in exploring opportunities. I told her I needed to call her back and hung up. I enabled every security feature LinkedIn offered and changed my password to something random. I stored in a password manager. I checked the account settings and found the email address on file was correct. The phone number was correct, but there was a second email address I didn't recognize. It was listed as a recovery email. I tried to remove it, but the system said I needed to verify my identity by responding to a code sent to that address. I couldn't access it to get the code. I submitted a support ticket explaining the situation. They replied 3 days later with generic advice about password security and suggested I verify my devices. The recovery email was still there. Over the next week, I checked the profile obsessively. No new posts appeared, no new connections. The activity stopped completely after I changed the password. But the messages kept coming. Other users were sending me connection requests and notes. Some were clearly automated networking attempts. Others were personal. Someone I'd supposedly worked with on a project 2 years ago wanted to catch up. I had never worked with them. The project they mentioned was real though. It was something my department had done, but I wasn't assigned to it. I looked up the project team list in our internal system. My name wasn't on it, but this person insisted we'd collaborated and even mentioned specific details about challenges the team had faced. Details that weren't in any public reports. I went to HR and asked if there had been any issues with my employment records or identity theft. They checked and said everything looked normal. My tax documents were correct. My direct deposit information hadn't changed. They suggested I file a police report if I was concerned. I didn't. What would I report? Someone was maintaining a professional profile in my name and doing a better job of networking than I ever had. The profile had probably helped my reputation. That recruiter had called because of it. People in my building knew my name because of posts I'd never written. I made the profile private and restricted who could see my information. I thought that would be the end of it. 2 months later, I got promoted. My manager said the executive team had been impressed with my visibility in the industry and my engagement with professional networks. She specifically mentioned LinkedIn. She said several board members had seen my posts and felt I demonstrated thought leadership. I smiled and thanked her. That night, I logged into the profile to update my new title. The job change was already listed. It had been updated that morning 6 hours before my manager called me into her office. The post announcing my promotion had 34 likes. 12 people had commented congratulations. The post had been live for 7 hours. I was still logged in. The session history showed 2 active sessions, mine and one from a device listed only as mobile. I watched the page. A few seconds later, the post got another like, then another. I refreshed the session history. Still 2 active sessions. Both are still active, both showing activity. I was staring at my screen, not clicking anything. The other session was